Hi, it's Davina. The weather's finally good enough for us to be outside, and I'm going to talk about how you can take care of your patio furniture so that it doesn't end up getting all weather rotted and bug eaten and yeah, not very pretty. So let's talk about tools. Really, you just need three things. One, boiled linseed oil. I really recommend boiled linseed oil over some of the varathanes and things like that you can use. This gets absorbed into the wood. It gives it a nice look, a nice finish. Keeps it fairly water resistant, and also doesn't have the fumes and things like that you might have with other things. Now, crazy thing about boiled linseed oil is, yes, it's from seeds and it's boiled and it's biodegradable. However, you don't want to leave a whole pile of rags wadded up together, because as it dries, it heats up. And if you have a pile of cotton rags that are heating up, they can catch fire. So when you're done with this, you're going to want to lay out your rags to dry, finish the curing process, and then throw them away. You're not going to keep them. You're not going to put it through the laundry. You're going to throw your rags away. So let's talk about the rags. I mentioned cotton rags. Well, a lot of cotton and linen has lint, and you don't want to leave a bunch of little tufts of threads all over your patio table or your patio chairs or your long-handled tools that have wood handles. So instead, old pantyhose. And if you don't have old pantyhose, you can always find some old pantyhose. Just go to the Goodwill and buy some pantyhose, or buy new pantyhose, or ask your friends, hey, I'm doing a refinishing project and I need some pantyhose. The knit nylon is basically one single filament instead of a bunch of different threads woven together. So if you looked at nylon under the microscope, it would be one plastic, line, kind of like a fishing line, instead of a bunch of different twists of stuff that under a microscope looks like fuzzy yarn. So you're going to want to have that. And last of all, bare hands without jewelry, covered with rubber gloves. Now, last year, around this time, you couldn't find protective gloves for love or money. Why? Because we were in the initial stages of COVID and we were freaking out. We couldn't find toilet paper, you couldn't find bleach or cleaner, and you couldn't find rubber gloves. Well, now, 1 year later, we can finally have rubber gloves. So I didn't do this last year, and you can see my table has gotten a little bit gray looking, and I don't like that. I like the look of this cedar table when it is oiled. I will sometimes oil my table twice a year, once here in the early spring and then just again in the midsummer. Early spring, we're having lovely weather right now, but just last week we had snow. So there's a good chance that this will have to repel some precipitation, and the linseed oil is going to help with that. So I'm going to bring you in close. I'm going to show you kind of what you have to do to prep the table before you oil it, and then just quickly oil it up. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you will recognize this is the table that I was using during the winter to do my art videos on. And though I tried very hard to have cardboard protecting my table, I did manage to get some little crumbs of oil pastel on my table. And then of course it was put out here in the sunlight for this shoot, and the oil pastel has kind of gotten all over. Now this will totally happen with your wood tables if you eat on them. If you do anything with salad dressing or barbecue sauce or meats of any kind, there's oils involved, and you're going to need to clean that up. And of course the oils are not going to willingly want to go, but I would recommend something like Simple Green, something that if it gets a little bit absorbed into the wood, you're not having a chemical stuck there in the wood that you can't get out, because people will be eating off of this table over the summer. So I'm just going to brush off as much of the oil pastel. It used to be dust, but is now slightly melted crumbs. And I'm going to try to get anything out of the cracks that I can. I won't be perfect about it. Again, this is an outdoor picnic table, but I do want to get most of it off. Now, in the brief time that these picnic chairs have been out, you can see a bird has pooped on that chair right there. That's water soluble. I'll easily be able to wipe that off with a wet cloth, let it dry, and then oil over the top. And yeah, if you have outdoor furniture, you're going to want to make sure that before you're eating on it, you clean it off. The linseed oil is going to help protect the wood from swelling with whatever cleaning agent you're using. I really like Simple Green. Some other people like other types of cleaners, but you're going to want to have to clean it off before you eat on it every time, because all sorts of things fall from the sky, from pollen to dust. Road dust is pretty gnarly, and of course bird poop also falls from the sky. So I'm going to clean this table. Hopefully no little birdies give me any gifts while I'm doing this, and then I can just oil up the table. I've done a quick brushing off of the table, and none of the marks that were on there are really super evident anymore. However, I am noticing, though almost all of these boards are doing fine, this board right here is starting to do that swelling that I was talking about. At some point, moisture got into the grain of this wood and has made it swell. So what I'm going to do is, before I oil it, I'm going to I think the only two boards that are having a problem is this board right here in the middle and this board here. So I'm going to hit these with a quick sander to try and smooth that out, and then I can oil. Always, try to sand before you oil so you don't gum up your sandpaper. Now, I've sanded those couple boards that were a little bit rough, and that means that I have a very fine sawdust on those boards. Now, some people would not dust that off. They would actually start oiling, because year after year, if you've got the oil infused dust that's going into cracks and crevices in this wood, it will actually fill that in, and because it's coated in that preservative oil, it will actually be more like a wood putty filling in the holes. I think it kind of is a little bit messy and a lot of extra goo that I don't like to deal with. So I'm just going to quickly sweep this off, but I'm not going to super clean it at this point. I just want to get off a bit of the dust. Okay, got my linseed oil. I've got my nylon stocking. I'm just going to turn this into kind of a donut. Now, because I mentioned nylon is a single filament instead of a bunch of different fibers, it's not actually as absorbent as a cotton rag would be. Excuse me while I push down and turn. I'm doing that. So, because this isn't very absorbent, I'm going to have to dab and redab and redab, because this isn't going to hold a lot like a sponge. It's only going to hold a little bit more like a paintbrush. Now you'll kind of get a feel for what the grain is, and you want to go with the direction of the grain. Now this end here is a crosswise, but for the most part you can kind of feel where the grain is and go in that direction. And if you dribble a little bit, just kind of blend it out We're going to do the whole table. Not just the top, but the sides, the legs, and even the bottom. Why the bottom? That's not the part that gets exposed to the rain, true. It doesn't get the rain or the sunshine, but it does get the yellow jackets. Yeah, that's right. Yellow jackets. Yellow jackets will chew on any unfinished wood surface. Luckily, they don't like the taste of furniture oil. So whether you're using tung oil or linseed oil or another kind of oil, you can still use a natural finisher on your patio furniture that will keep it from becoming parts of yellow jacket nests. There we go. This oil is going to absorb into the wood and protect it. And in places where I saw deeper parts, like around these knot holes and stuff, I really tried to make sure that I squeezed some oil into there to make sure that it's protected. Now, you can do just one coat as long as you know you're gonna come back and do it again later in the summer and then maybe again in the fall. Otherwise, let this soak in, get yourself some lemonade, work on something else for a while, and then come back and give this a second and maybe even a third going over, because you really want it to soak into the wood. Now, last year, I had no idea how long rubber gloves were going to be out. So I didn't do it twice or three times last year. I think I managed to do it just once before my September wedding. So that's where some of the grayness in the wood came from. That's probably where some of this swelling of the wood grain came from, and that's what leads to small slivers. You'll see there are actually tiny little slivers in the cloth that I was just using to rub on this, even though I sanded off some of these boards. So this is a twice to three times a year chore that you really should do, but it will definitely help your patio furniture, your wood handle tools, anything that you want to keep a natural wood look outdoors. You're going to want to use an oil to preserve it. Thank you for joining me on this video. I realized that I have a bunch of household tips that I wanted to share with people, so I've started up a new playlist called House and Home and Garden. I'm going to put some of those in, as well as a few of my previous videos. So look for that. If you find this sort of stuff interesting, please leave me a comment. I'm going to eventually upload a bunch of partial videos that have interesting house tips to help people with housework or quick little cleaning tips and things like that. If you find those interesting, please let me know. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day. And I will sometimes oil a beep beep to you.